Hello everyone, welcome to the class. So in today's video, I'm going to introduce the very beginning of the story we are going to read for this whole week. So let's get to the story begins. Officially now we are entering the world of Three Kingdoms. So the first thing we are going to read throughout the whole semester is a novel. Just to provide you a little bit more background of the novel. This novel in Chinese is called 三国演义. I think its alternative name is The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but the translator, Robert Moss, the translator we are going to read her work of the novel, he refused to use the romance, maybe because it's a little bit misleading, so he keeps the title as Three Kingdoms. And this whole novel is attributed to Luo Guanzhong. We say attributed is because a lot of Chinese novels don't have a definite author. Because writing novel in the pre-modern China is not a very respectful job to do. So people try to use pen name as much as possible. That is why it's so hard for us nowadays to locate the actual author of the novel. So nowadays we can say it's attributed to Luo Guanzhong, but nobody knows whether Luo Guanzhong is actually the author. This novel is written in the 14th century, and its oldest edition is from 1522, so still a long time ago. And this is a novel based on the history. The actual history is called 三国志, so history of the Three Kingdoms. But this novel is not a history. It just based on the story of the history. And this kind of story used to be circulating a long time in oral traditions. That is to say, prior to 14th century, people was talking about the stories about Cao Cao, about Lord Guan, or about every other characters for a long time, but in oral traditions. So people will have the storyteller tell the story in the market, and people will gather there to hear about the story, to listen to the story. So actually nowadays, even in the written edition, in the novel we are going to read, we'll see traces of a storyteller. Sometimes they'll say, now let's wait to the next time, or audience, please listen, now I'm telling you this character. So these traces of a storyteller is everywhere in this novel. And because of this tradition of oral tradition, this novel always leave a clue for next chapter. So at the end of each chapter, it'll say, let's wait for the next chapter to explain. So just like our today's TV show, it will stop right at the climax of a very dramatic scene and attracts you to watch more. The genre for this novel is called novel in chapters, in Chinese 章回小说, which means the title discloses the content. So if you pay attention to the title is always a combination of two sentences made one couplet, and it kind of summarizes the main content of that chapter. So it's pretty easy when you are looking for some specific content. You can just look at the title, and it will tell you a lot. And the TV show we are going to watch for this whole semester, as I said in my last class, is the Three Kingdoms TV show from the 2010. So that's pretty recent, 10 years ago. This TV show is directed by Gao Xixi and has a pretty high budget. The budget is over 160 million renminbi or 30 million US dollar. Supposedly, it took 5 years of pre-production work. And the shooting starts at October 2008, finally released on May 2010. So still there's 2 years of production, a very long time for a TV show. And it became a commercial success, sold to over 20 countries as well. But it also has some controversy because a lot of fans will claim it veered a little bit too far from the classic novel and the real history. But I mean, now it left to you to decide which part or which version of the Three Kingdom you like and you think is worth paying attention to. From this TV series, I think it still keeps the stereotyped characters. So even if you didn't know about this TV series, you only read about the novel, or you only vaguely know what kind of characters are involved in the Three Kingdoms story, when you watch this TV show, you will see you will quickly recognize who is Cao Cao, who is Guan Yu. The kind of features of their appearance, the attitude they hold is pretty stereotypical and very recognizable. But this TV show is trying to provide us an alternative interpretation of this story from a little bit different angle, because they didn't make the three brothers as a very main character and try to narrate the story from the Wei Kingdom and also the Sima family, that kind of the northern part kingdom, basically, that perspective. So a little bit shift from the focus of the novel. And before we actually entering the chapter 1, there's a very interesting opening song. If you pay attention to, so it is like this. On and on the great river rolls, racing east, of proud and gallant heroes, its white tops leave no trace. As right and wrong, pride and fall turn all at once unreal, yet ever the green hills stay, to blaze in the west waning day. Fishers and woodmen cob the river isle, white crowned, they've seen enough of spring and autumn tide, to make good company over the wine jar, where many a famed event provides their merriment. Actually, if you look into this poem, it kind of summarizes the whole history and give you an idea of where does this whole book or this whole novel stands in the attitude facing a history. It tells us history has up and downs, and the people come and go, and only the nature, the green hills will stay. Only the sunrise, only the mountain, the river, they will stay. But people will come and by. All these excellent, inspiring heroes, they will die. They will get buried by the whole long time of history. But now what we can do about them is to hold in our jar of wine and talking about their story and enjoy them, because their story can provide us with merriment, provide us with joy, with entertainment. That kind of idea of standing outside of history to view the history is very interesting. Because when you read into that novel, a lot of times you will lost your outsider's position and a little bit incorporate yourself into that story to be like the friends of Guan Yu or the peer of Cao Cao or that kind of position. But from the very beginning, not the author, but the opening song tells us actually the history is there and we are only outsiders. We are viewers. We can look at the history, provide our interpretation and enjoy it, but that is history and we are us. So that kind of distance in position is very interesting. So now let's go to chapter 1. So basically, chapter 1 introduces the main characters, like the three brothers and the Cao Cao. Some keywords like brotherhood, battle, bad omens, chaos, heroes, dreams, and hope. So all these keywords will continue throughout this whole novel. And that's very interesting to see how do these following chapters develop these ideas, which was briefly mentioned in the first chapter of the novel. And when read this novel, when read the chapter 1, please pay attention to first the way the three brothers recognize each other, and the description of the appearance of different characters. And is that a little bit special? If special, in which way, and why describe it in such a special way? That's an interesting question to think about. And also the function of the inserted poem. So when you read the novel, you'll see after some story, some narrative story, there will always be a poem inserted inside of the novel. So why? What's the function of the poems? And also Cao Cao's past and present. There's a very interesting and a little bit uncomfortable backstory of Cao Cao inserted in chapter 1, and it kind of connected to Cao Cao as a present Cao Cao, adulthood Cao Cao as well. So compare the Cao Cao's past and present and how they connected. That's also another question to think about. And turn to episode 1 in the TV series, which actually depicts the chapter 4 in the novel. So this episode introduced the shared enemy, the tyrant Dong Zhuo, and his adopted son Lü Bu, the treacherous Cao Cao, and the loyal Wang Yun. So basically these four main characters. And when watch this video, please pay attention to first how words became has visual effects, or how words become visual. Are these settings like clothes, lightings, decorations, or languages, or makeup on character's face? Are these kind of settings in accord with your imagination when reading the novel? When you read the novel, naturally you will have some image in your head about what kind of time period of the Three Kingdoms and what kind of characters they should look like. But when you actually watch the TV show, do you think they match your imagination, or they kind of deviated from your imagination? That's a very interesting question. And second, the close-ups of the characters, because for a very traditional, I think it's a very traditional TV show. It always take close-ups to the character and show the details of their facial expressions. And I think it's very interesting to analyze what kind of facial expressions they are shooting, and how they represent the characteristics of that character, which is in accord with the novel, but the facial expressions are not always described detailedly in the novel. And thirdly, the use of time and how it creates the dramatic moments. Because now when we are watching a video, it's an art of time. So we can discuss like how much time this character got, and how much time that scene got, and how the transition goes. So the use of time is a very interesting thing to pay attention to when watch the videos. And finally, Cao Cao's personality that connects to his backstory in chapter 1. So does this TV show show us more about his personality, or does the TV show play any kind of twist on that? And for chapter 5, chapter 5 introduces us the first two very famous fights in the novel. Because it's a novel about heroes, they're always fighting each other. So the fight scene is one of the most important component of the whole novel. So first is Lord Guan killed Hua Xiong when the wine prepared for him was still warm. And the second one is the three brothers united together but still cannot defeat one Lü Bu. So these two very famous fights. And when reading this chapter, I want you to pay attention to First, the definition of a powerful hero in the world of Three Kingdoms. If we are talking about heroes, and we define one of the features of heroes as powerful, then from these two very famous fighting, what can you see defines a powerful hero? What can represent the power of a hero? And second, the language or conversation assigned to different characters, how they have their own kind of taste, and how the conversation itself showed us the characteristics of different characters. And thirdly, the use of poem. Again and always, I think we should always keep this question in mind when reading this novel is why there's a poem and what does it do at this place in the story. And the fourth question is the very different writing techniques between these two fights. When you read the novel, when you read the story, you'll get it. Even if these are both are very famous fights, but they are depicted in a very different way. We can have a very good discussion about it, about the writing techniques and about the different intention of showing different characteristics of characters involved in these two separate fights. And finally, the expected or unexpected breakout of the stereotypical image of social status. Actually, we can see the emerging of the differences of social status from from chapter 1 as well, and to thinking about how in a hierarchical society people recognize each other by social status, and under which certain circumstances people will not stick to the social status they belong to, but step out and talk to other people. That's another interesting question we can think about. So I think that's all for today, and please enjoy reading and watching. Don't forget to post your comments on this video and your comments on the forum on Moodle, and see you on Friday. Bye!